couldn't measure the ripple effect. They were kind to others, and those people were kind to others. That gratitude was very profound. And so what that study came out and told us was this, that when you're down and out, you feel lonely, you're kind of depressed, and you think you're overwhelmed with all the stuff of this world, or if you have some serious, I deal almost every day with people who have health issues. And what I like to do is have their picture there, and I have a picture right there on another person now, and I send gratitude and love their way. But and so the research came out and said this: if you're down and out, you're depressed, things aren't going well, you're overwhelmed, or you have health issues, the greatest antidote that you can possibly have is gratitude, and it's free. Isn't that great? So anyway, to carry on with this, one of the situations that we face that needs to be covered this month is that this, I call it a spiritual principle of gratitude, is not just a spiritual tool that brings us stuff. It's, Joanne's just walking in, it's pretty cool. It's not just a spiritual tool that brings us stuff in our, it goes way beyond that. It's an act in consciousness that makes us be open and receptive to everything. To know that when we're up against anything, that we are able to handle it, that we are, and here's a key word that I want to get across today, that we are enough. We are enough. When I'm facing a problem, a situation that's up against what I'm trying to do, that my very nature is pretty bad. My very nature, when something happens, is to judge it and to label it as good or bad. But when we do that, what we're saying is, I'm not enough. In other words, I can't handle this. I don't have the spiritual stuff within myself to handle it. So transcending that idea of labeling and judging into the idea that I am enough. Let's say that I am enough.
I am enough.
And so I want to read to you something that really seals this up. When we do this, when we are confronted by something that we can perceive as unpleasant or very difficult for us, what we do, we say, I am enough to handle the situation, and I dare greatly. Let's take the word dare, D-A-R-E, I dare greatly. You're going to say, where did that come from? Well, let me tell you, it came from Theodore Roosevelt, and I wanted to read to you. I very seldom will read to you, but I'm going to read to you. Theodore Roosevelt made this statement of daring greatly. Thanks for coming. Sorry about the traffic. It is not the critic who counts. It's not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done better. The credit belongs to the man, and this is really cool. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred with dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly. Do we accept daring greatly? Absolutely. I read a book by Brene Brown, and she took this idea of the man who's greatest has the face that's, when he's in the arena and he's got the face that's marred with dust, and she wrote a book about that. And she explained what that means. It's all about gratitude. It's all about gratitude. It relates directly. And it also is about vulnerability. The issue of vulnerability, and from this very platform, we've always implied, or not always, but sometimes I have, but we imply as vulnerability is a weakness. That if we're vulnerable, we're open to being something that we're not, or being less than we are. But what this lady, this great Brene Brown, states, that vulnerability is not a weakness. And what do you think it is? Well, this is good. The level to which we protect ourselves from being vulnerable is a measure of our fear and discontent. connect. Isn't that absolutely awesome? I mean, I'm going to repeat that. The level to which we protect ourselves from being vulnerable is a measure of our fear and disconnect. It is our consciousness, our unconscious, and I added this. It's our conscious or unconscious belief that I am not enough. When I think I'm not enough, then I don't want to be vulnerable. But it's what happens to vulnerability. I'm not going to risk something new. I'm not going to do it. No new ideas. Because I'm afraid that people will laugh at me or that I may fail. Do we think that sometimes? That's the problem with vulnerability. I'm not going to risk loving others or having a tremendously good relationship because I might get rejected. I'm not going to get a pet because it will eventually die and my feelings and I'll be hurt. I will not step into the unknown and try something new because people will laugh at me and I might fail and I'll be scorned upon. I will not be honest with my authentic opinion when dealing with a friend because I don't want to lose my friendship. The consciousness of I am not enough comes from an unawareness that we're this light of the universe itself. That's our true nature. And that we have everything within ourselves to handle any situation that confronts us, period. That I am enough. Brene said that vulnerability is not weakness. And these ideas of challenges and unpleasantries appear in our lives all the time, and it's not an option. This is our duty assignment. So let's get used to it, and let's accept the fact that I'm going to open. So this month we focus on the need to, and here's Maggie's statement, we focus on the need to wake up and see the blessings that lie before us. And these blessings are on our path. You know, we need to look at the little challenges, like upstairs. That was a blessing, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. This place, going into shambles, that they may even say that it's not safe anymore for anyone. These are blessings. This building is a blessing for us. It's carried us a long ways, but it's time to release it and let go of it. So all these little stumbling blocks and these challenges on our path, they're all blessings to us. They're bags of gold. And the reason I'm saying bags of gold is I've got a story to tell you. It's my favorite parable. Shiva and Shakti, the husband and wife, they're the Lord and Lordess of the universe itself. Well, they're up there in their divine kingdom looking down, looking at the earth, checking up on everything. And Shakti sees this really poor man. He's got sandals on, and they're tied with rope. And he's coming along, and Shakti, she was filled with remorse and she was filled with compassion, and she looks at her husband, Shiva, and she says, "Would you give him some gold?" And he said, "Wife, I can't give him gold." "What do you mean?" I'm going to Pizelo-ize this a little bit. "What do you mean you can't give him gold? For goodness sakes, you're the Lord of the universe." And he says, "Wife, I cannot give him gold because he's not ready to receive it." He says, "It'll do no good." And she says, "Well, why can't you just drop a bag of gold on his path? Just drop the darn thing on his path. You can do that, can't you?" Oh, he says, "Well, that's a different situation there. Yeah, I can drop a bag of gold on his path. But it's not going to do any good, I can tell you that." So he drops a bag of gold on the path of this poor guy, and he's coming along feeling sorry for himself. And he says, "I don't really know where I'm going to eat tonight." And he looks ahead, and here's this object in his way. He says, "My gosh, if I hadn't seen that rock, I would have bumped into it. I would have torn up my sandals more than they're already torn up, and I would have really gotten hurt. Thank God I saw it." And he walks around it. And he's heading back on his way over past the bag of gold. And what does that have to do with us? Everything. Everything. When we have an obstacle in our way, what do we look at? We don't see the the glory. We don't see the bag of gold that this obstacle is, no matter what it is. And you say, my gosh, what are the extremes? And we don't need to deal with extremes. Everything that happens, happens, and everything that happens, happens for our benefit. And they're bags of gold. And so this month, when we get into gratitude, we need to bring into our experience and retune our experience and say, hey, listen, everything that happens to us, it's all good and it's all God. And everything I'm experiencing are glorious. They're really blessings in my life. And therefore, I receive and I accept it. And I know that I'm this divine light that's learning and growing because of the bags of gold. And say it with me loud and clear.
And so it is.
We're done. We're done.